Hi, welcome to another edition of Paterno Presser. Cory Giger along with Neil Rudel. This is the post-bye week edition. We just got finished with Joe's press conference. And really one of the interesting things that happened last week, it's not really news for a lot of the diehard fans that may have followed this on the internet last week, but Joe and the coaches stripped the starters of their first and second team jerseys. They all went last week, open position battles. Did that kind of thing work midway through a season, Neil?
You know, I think that I was surprised, at least he didn't confirm any changes. Now, whether they make any changes, we'll find out. I think it shows me that everybody's on a shorter leash, but, you know, you'd think if you were really, that you would open the door to position changes, and they weren't ready to confirm any. Now, again, whether they do it or whether they confirm it are different. It seemed to me, though, the way he was talking about, we need people to make plays, we're not making excuses about injuries. It looked to me like you may see a shorter leash, possibly even on the quarterback.
I like it to a degree. I like having some position battles and giving more guys something to work for. But we also asked Danton Lynn, who said there were no changes made in the starting defense. And so it does bring up the question to me, if you're going to go through this whole process and threaten everyone's job but not take their job away, how effective was the policy in the first place?
Yeah. Unless you make these changes on the fly where you give people, you know, you're going to get another chance at Minnesota, but we got this guy waiting in the wings. Who the heck knows? I think on defense it's a little different animal, although Joe was pretty critical of the defense today, which surprised me because they only made 7 first downs. They've had so many injuries, but the fact that Marty, Baju, are coming back now, and they said Gerald Hodges may come back this week too, so you may see an influx of defensive players. I think they're out of players. That's probably the reason. You don't have a lot of players you can go to.
Chaz Powell moved back over to defense. Some news of the day, defensive end Sean Stanley has been charged with marijuana possession, so that's why he hasn't played the past couple weeks. He is back at practice, though. Cornerback Derek Thomas is not back at practice. He is Stanley's roommate. He has not been charged with anything, although his name, according to police documents, was on the search warrant. So that's an ongoing story. We'll get to more of that a little bit later on. Rob Bolden, I want to talk to you about him a little bit. True freshman, yes, and judging Rob Bolden's progression, we have to keep that in mind, that he's a true freshman. But Joe did point out, say, he's got to start making some plays. It's halfway through the season now. When does the true freshman label or excuse or reason really kind of come off Rob Bolden?
Sounds to me like it's already off, although he did make the excuse that they didn't have him in the spring. Not that, in my mind, how much difference would that have made? Who knows? But he did seem like there may be a little bit shorter leash for him as well. I mean, let's face it, we talked about this quarterback position being an ongoing work in progress through the first 6 weeks. It's not been. It's been Bolden's position. I'll be curious. And the red zone really didn't come up a lot today. I don't know how much time they've spent on the red zone. You saw Ohio State go to another quarterback in the red zone against Wisconsin. You know, so you just wonder whether Penn State's sitting back watching other people, whether they had any new ideas themselves.
You know, I find this week's game to be fascinating for so many reasons. This Minnesota team is not any good. You can't look at this Minnesota team and think that this is a quality team, a dangerous team in any way, shape, or form. But they just fired their coach, okay? So now these kids are going to come out to me and possibly, this program may be in a desperation mode. They're going to come out and fire everything they've got, every missile they've got. So the 6 weeks of film you've been able to watch on Minnesota so far, with them being lousy, kind of all goes out the window, and that to me makes this an incredibly dangerous game.
Oh, it's a coin flip. You say Minnesota's not any good. We know Penn State's not any good. They're going to have to prove that. And you know, you are facing a desperate team and a team that really has worn down in the fourth quarter of a lot of these games. They were up against USC. You know, Wisconsin, they were only down 14-9 at halftime. They were beating Northwestern in the second half. You know, these aren't necessarily super programs, but they've been more competitive than their record.
All right, and I'm not going to spoil it, but tell the folks what your prediction is.
Well, I picked Minnesota. I made the pick last Thursday, so I got to go back and check the score. I think it was 23-19, so I'm going to verify that. I am picking Minnesota. I just don't see enough of Penn State yet. I'm stunned they're an 8.5-point favorite.
And to quote Neil from the Nitwits television program on Sunday, one of your greatest lines ever, I think, Penn State has not earned my pick. And I thought that was great. They really haven't.
No, I just they need to win this game because the season could really take a downward spiral if they can't stop the bleeding on the road.
Penn State hasn't earned my pick either, but Minnesota to me is so lousy that I think Penn State will be able to go.
Hasn't either.
Yeah,
they're wearing a little bit of Badger burgundy.
No, this is okay. They're brown.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to go with Penn State 23, Minnesota 16. For Neil Rudel, I'm Cory Giger. We'll be back next week.